A little bit about Sturge here. So I'm Nicole K. Spear. I'm a project manager with Regional Flood Control District and a steering committee member for Surge. And also wanted to just acknowledge a few folks in the room and that aren't in the room who help support Surge. So Mead Meyer Wellborn with flood control, Brooke Bushman with Storm to Shade, City of Tucson's Green Infrastructure Program, Irene Ogata with Tucson Water, Neha Gupta with the Arizona Institute for Resilience here at the U of A in Tucson, and Marie Light with Pima County Environmental Quality. So a little bit about Surge, just as a refresher. We're just a regional network of practitioners here in Pima County who love all things green infrastructure, and we're a peer learning network, so we're really here as a resource for you to help you get the resources that you need and build collaboration and continue to make all of our work better and our community more vibrant and healthy and equitable and all those fabulous things. So thank you very much for joining us. And I wanted to introduce, oh, just a couple updates. So we have a new list serve. I'm sorry for all of the chaos that has been occurring with that listserv, but if you want to join, I will send you our survey. I'll drop the link in the chat here in a second, but a reminder to officially join, you will get a Google Groups invite, and you must open said email invitation, scroll down, and click the accept invite button to officially be able to use the listserv and get emails. So if you haven't gotten that, let me know. If you need help, I am happy to help you. We're also putting out a call for new steering committee members. So if you love planning field trips, if you have an amazing project you want to show off, if you're affiliated with great regional or national organizations and want to be a conduit for Tucson and help us highlight our amazing work or invite in great speakers, we really would like your support, helping us continue to make our network the best that it can be. So let me know if you're interested in joining our steering committee. So, Dr. Rashi Bhushan is joining us all the way from India virtually, and she is a postdoctoral research associate at the University of Arizona, focusing on achieving net zero urban water futures in the Southwest amid challenges like the Colorado River crisis. Dr. Bhushan earned her PhD from Hong Kong University of Science and Technology and a master's in science from the Pennsylvania State University in both in civil engineering. Prior to her PhD, she worked with an environmental consulting firm focusing on hydraulic and hydraulic modeling for FEMA floodplain development. Her research interests include hydraulic modeling, of course, adaptive water resources management, systems analysis, and multi-objective optimization, which I have a feeling we're going to learn a lot about today. So thank you very much, Rashi, for being here, and I will hand it off to you.
Thanks, Anne, and thanks, Nicole, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Happy to meet all of you. I'm Rashi, and I'm a postdoc at UFA working on urban water sustainability issues for Southwest US. So today I'll be presenting an approach to, before that, I hope everyone can hear me properly before I start. Great. So today I'll be presenting an approach to identify the optimal locations for putting managed aquifer recharge structures, specifically the stormwater detention ponds and dry wells, to enhance aquifer recharge in the Tucson active management area. And this study is particularly relevant in the background of the groundwater overdraft problems prevalent in certain parts of Arizona and the recent Colorado River cutbacks. And this work also closely aligns with the city of Tucson's net zero urban water goals, where the city is trying to utilize more and more of local and sustainable alternative water sources like stormwater to diversify the city's water supply portfolio. Yeah, so we all know that Colorado River is the lifeline to 40 million people in US Southwest, and the river is unfortunately going through its worst droughts. And this has been triggered by climate change, over allocation of water from the river, and the complex water laws and policies governing the river. So, in the light of these, lots of cities in the US Southwest are looking for alternate ways to improve their water self-sufficiency, supply reliability, and reduce their reliance on Colorado River water. So that basically brings us to the topic of net zero urban water future, or you may also call sustainable water future for Southwest US. And this project is funded by NSF, and we're already in the third year of funding. Principal investigator on this project is Professor Courtney Crossan from UFA. We have uh, other academic collaborators and utilities from three other cities in the Southwest, from Denver, LA, and Albuquerque. All of these cities, as we know, are being serviced in some parts or fully by the Colorado River. So, what is really this net zero urban water concept? So, this net zero urban water approach tries to meet the needs of a given community, um, water needs of a given community using locally available and sustainable water supply sources, but without being a detriment to the interconnected systems. So, this is a progressive target across the three systems, the natural, built, and social system. And as we know that this is a quantitative framework to achieve the various targets. So some of the key strategies for net zero approach is to maximize water conservation and reuse, and to increase the utilization of local alternative water sources like rainwater, stormwater, and reclaimed water. And today we are going to mainly focus on the stormwater component. So we are going to focus on stormwater capture for aquifer recharge to support Tucson's net zero urban water goals. So um, the larger focus of the study, was basically trying to address these five questions. How much stormwater can be generated annually in the Eastern Pima County watersheds? Second question being, what are the best sites for recharge? Then, how much of this stormwater can be effectively captured and infiltrated annually? And for this, we are, using a hydrologic modeling tool, HEC-HMS. And then we also calculate that what fraction of this stormwater will eventually reach the aquifer. And the last one is about the cost analysis. But today I'm going to mainly focus on question two, that what are the best sites of recharge, and talk about a parcel scale study using GIS. So for stormwater recharge site selection, we have used a GIS-based multi-criteria decision analysis model for identifying the best locations for putting recharge interventions like detention basins and dry wells for aquifer recharge in Tucson. And this study was mainly motivated by the gap that most of the current recharge initiatives in Tucson largely use either the treated effluents or they use imported surface water from the Colorado River brought through the Central Arizona project for most of the recharge. There are very few recharge initiatives that actually focus on using urban stormwater for recharge, and hence we wanted to evaluate the potential. However, there are some challenges within the Tucson AMA. So the city has arid climate with sporadic rainfall patterns and very deep groundwater tables in a lot of the locations, which creates challenges for putting a lot of these interventions. The shallow detention basins alone, as we know, will be insufficient for recharge because of the deep water tables. Dry wells definitely therefore become very important because they can bypass the Vadose zone and reach the aquifer. However, in Pima County, we still do not have regulations governing the stormwater use within the dry wells. Um, so given these challenges, the goal of our study was to identify suitable sites for putting the detention ponds and dry well for managed aquifer recharge in Tucson AMA using a GIS-based approach where we apply tailored weighing schemes for three different managed aquifer recharge strategies that we'll be talking about. And then finally, we'll identify open vacant parcels that are feasible for recharge. So there is a lot of related work on stormwater recharge in Southwest US. And I think that our work closely resembles the regional planning tool developed by Pima County called the Pima County Net Delta Dashboard. And this tool, as we know, identifies the runoff increases from urbanization at the watershed scale for purposes like flood mitigation and recharge. So my personal observation was that some of the factors like slope, depth to the water table, and geology are not explicitly included in this regional planning tool. So, and these factors definitely impact the feasibility of recharge. So, our study integrates these additional factors and builds on the work of Net Delta Dashboard. So the methods that we have used are pretty straightforward. We'll first define the factors influencing recharge suitability. We'll standardize those factors, assign the weights to the different factors by the recharge strategy focus. We then generate the suitability maps and filter the suitable parcels from these. And at the last, we'll identify the most suitable parcels under the three recharge schemes. So coming to the factors, the most important factor influencing recharge suitability in our study was the annual runoff volumes in the different watersheds of Eastern Pima County. And that is because the runoff volume basically dictate how much water we have for recharge. And in our first map, you can see that the watersheds that are in dark purple are the ones that generate more volume of runoff. And the runoff estimation is done using the SRCS curve number approach, using land use land cover data set from the National Land Cover data set and the soil type from the SURGO database. Our second most important layer is the percentage impervious area in the watersheds of Pima County, because the percentage imperviousness basically drives how much runoff can be generated. And again, in the map, we can see that the areas in dark red are those watersheds where the percentage imperviousness is more. And that is basically the urban core of Tucson, where we have, more development, and that is why more imperviousness. Other important layers are slope, soil type, and the distance to the stream. And, we follow the logic that areas that have flatter slopes and more permeable soils will obviously favor infiltration and recharge. Another critical factor for the study is the depth to the water table. And as we pointed out, that most of the regions in Tucson AMA have very deep water tables, more than 200 feet deep. And a lot of the recharge interventions, like dry wells, only reach up to 100 to 150 deep, 150 feet deep. So a lot of these interventions may not be even able to, penetrate to these areas. Therefore, this map kind of helps us put a technical feasibility check and narrows down on the locations which are feasible for infiltration and recharge. So again, the areas in dark blue are the places where you have very deep water tables and, they are not really feasible for recharge. Then the geology is next most important layer, and we want to, give more weightage to areas that have quaternary deposit because they favor infiltration and recharge. And in the very end, we have the restricted area map, which includes wells, roads, floodplains, and developed areas. So these are basically the locations where we cannot be putting these interventions. We then reclassify and standardize these factors, giving them a score of 1 to 5, depending on how these factors influence the recharge outcome. So for example, we give more weightage to areas where there is more runoff, because more runoff means, a more recharge. Similarly, areas that are more impervious are given a higher scores because impervious areas basically yield more runoff, and so on. Next, we assign weights to the different factors, considering three different recharge strategy focus. And these are all hypothetical schemes. And the weights that I have chosen here are, based on my gut feeling, depending on how different stakeholders would weigh the factors. But at the very end of this talk, I would request you all to fill a survey to refine these factor weights. So the first scheme is the general MAR scheme based on AHP, the analytical hierarchy process. Um, Basically, the AHP scheme integrates expert judgment and pairwise comparison to balance the multiple factors. Then the second recharge scheme is the detention pond only scheme, which has urban runoff control as its main focus. And the last scheme is where we are trying to integrate dry wells with the detention pond with recharge as focus. Dry wells will penetrate deeper into the Meadows zone and help in recharge. So that's basically the focus of the third strategy. And we can see that for each scheme, we will have different group of stakeholders that will kind of prioritize, different factors to achieve their end goals. For example, for the general MAR scheme, this scheme prioritizes annual runoff, distance to the stream, and soil type. So the proximity to the stream is given more weightage here because I was talking to Tress, we have this assumption that areas that are near the stream will help in intercepting the runoff before it enters the main river channel, and hence it will kind of allow infiltration and recharge earlier. And also areas near the stream are full of alluvial deposits, which will also enhance infiltration. Then the detention pond only scheme, the second one prioritizes annual runoff and percentage imperviousness because the focus here is to manage the peak flows and flooding in the urban areas, which occurs, where there is more imperviousness. And in the third scheme, we are giving more weightage to depth of the water table and soil type because we want to target locations where the stormwater can efficiently infiltrate and reach the aquifer. So we want to focus on areas where the water table is shallow and the interventions can reach, and also where the soil is permeable. Uh, we then use a weighted sum of all these factors to generate final suitability maps. And what we see on the screen here is a spatial distribution of the most suitable locations highlighted in green. So we can see that in the general MAR scheme based on AHP, the suitable areas for recharge are widely distributed throughout the Eastern Pima County watersheds. And that is because this scheme had used a balanced weighing of surface and subsurface factors to identify the suitable locations for recharge. Um, in our second scheme, based on detention pond only, we can see that the suitable locations are kind of concentrated only in the urban core of Tucson because this scheme had ended up giving more weightage to annual runoff and percentage imperviousness, which definitely is more in the urban core where we have most of the developments. And the very last scheme, where we integrate detention ponds and dry wells, we can see that the suitable areas, exist in the transitional zones as we move from the urban to the peri-urban zone of Tucson. And this is because, if we recall, that this scheme had given more weightage to depth to water table, geology, and soil type. And these are the very location where the water table is shallow, the soils are of good quality, permeable, and also the geology is good. So it ended up identifying these sites as suitable. And our results show that the very first scheme, the general AHP scheme, that gives us the highest high suitability area for recharge in Tucson AMA. Almost 24% of the area in the whole Tucson AMA is found to be suitable under this scheme, whereas the detention pond only scheme gives us the least high suitability area, only 13%. We then filtered the results to identify the suitable parcels for recharge. And we do so because we know that, in the urban areas, there is space limitation. Hence, we wanted to do managed aquifer recharge at the parcel scale to address that issue. And the criteria that we use to identify the suitable parcel is that any vacant or preserved parcel, any open parcel that is, which is greater than 5 acres in size, and that can accommodate a 1 inch of delta volume is considered suitable. And in Pima County, we have this regulation that the maximum, I'm sorry, maximum allowable depth of detention ponds cannot be greater than 6 feet. So the final selection criteria for these parcels was that the 6 feet retention volume of these parcels should be greater than the 1 inch delta volume of the watershed in which it is located. So here in this map, we see the location of the most suitable parcels under the three schemes. And the spatial pattern is kind of similar to what we saw in the suitability map. The area that you see in light green in these map is the most suitable recharge location from the suitability map that we saw earlier. And the colored parcels that we see in brown, pink, and blue are the suitable parcels which we identified using the criteria in the earlier slide. And these suitable parcels overlap with the suitability map. So that basically gives us, the suitable parcel. This table quickly gives us an overview of, how many suitable parcels we have under each scheme. And we see that again, the general MAR scheme is giving us the maximum number of suitable parcels for recharge, around 1,273 parcels with total suitability area of around 140,000 acres. And the detention pond only scheme is giving us the least number of parcels. However, you can see that the third scheme that had recharge focus, although it has the second highest number of suitable parcels, but the area under it is the largest. Around 170,000 acres of land areas found to be suitable, which is more than what we had in general MAR. And that is because some of the very large parcels in the transitional areas were identified in the site. So although the number of parcels is less compared to the general MAR scheme, the total area is still larger. So once we have identified these parcels, our next work is to integrate these, urban parcels with the watershed models in HEC-HMS to evaluate the infiltration and the recharge contribution from all these parcels together. So to summarize, in our study, we developed a robust GIS-based MCDA model to identify the optimal sites for stormwater managed aquifer recharge in Tucson AMA. We identified high suitability areas for recharge under three schemes, where the general MAR scheme based on AHP gave us the best results. We saw that the weighing strategy strongly influenced the recharge suitability outcome. And we also saw that most of the suitable areas lie near the ephemeral waterways, Santa Cruz and the Relito River, and the flat alluvial urban plains of Tucson. So this study basically helped in representing stormwater as a viable component, in the city of Tucson's net zero urban water goals. And it also helps identify parcel level recharge opportunities in the city to expand local water sources and to reach the net zero urban water goals for the city. So we come to the end of this talk, and as a part of the study, I would request you all to please fill a feedback survey. I will just copy paste the link in the chat, and your inputs will basically help me define the factor weighing for recharge suitability. So the table that I showed earlier was based on my gut feeling, but it would be really helpful if I can actually get all these weights from the real practitioners. It will really help me in my modeling framework.